Thanks for joining us at the Business Growth Cafe, where each week we select from a menu of topics for a focused discussion with an industry expert to provide insights that can impact your business's growth. With your host, Angelo Ponzi.
I am Angelo Ponzi, your host here at the Business Growth Cafe, and thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate when you come by and listen to the show, and today we've got a great one for you. We're going to break this down into a couple different parts, and we're going to be talking to the founder and CEO of BeTheChangeHR, Leilani Quiray. Now, if you've listened to the show, you know Leilani has been on it a few times, and she's one of my reoccurring guests, and actually was my co-host in the Be Grateful show that we had in January of this year. Leilani, we're going to be talking about HR issues as we move into this post-COVID, getting people back to work. And we're going to be talking to her about her adventure. She had left California about 168 days or so ago and had been traveling this great country of ours and going to different spots and having these great experiences. We're not only going to talk about that, but how did she continue to grow her business during this time in a remote environment? So as an entrepreneur, if you're listening to this show, or small business owner, or medium-sized business owner for that matter, there's a lot of takeaways you are going to get from this show, because really the focus and the commitment of building a culture that allows her to do this is very interesting and very exciting, and I know you're going to benefit from this. So I want you to stay tuned. This conversation is going to be great, and you can take it in bite-sized chunks, or you can certainly listen to the entire show in one sitting. This is a very dynamic situation, and I'm really excited to have Leilani on board. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. My company, the Ponzi Group, provides consulting, interim, and fractional marketing and leadership services with a focus on the strategic and analytical side of marketing. We take a holistic approach to driving business growth. Consider us your marketing architects. We use research to gather the necessary insights from your customers, prospects, the competition, and the marketplace to develop fact-based approaches to building effective and efficient growth plans. And, much like a general contractor, we partner with internal teams or carefully selected, vetted individuals and organizations to execute the strategies and plans, as well as provide oversight and management to ensure we stay on brand and plan. To learn more about our services, visit theponzigroup.com. As I mentioned, we're talking to CEO and founder of BeTheChangeHR, Leilani Quiray. Leilani, welcome to the Business Growth Cafe.
I am super happy to be back for the third time, I think.
So I think it's the third for sure, maybe the fourth. But I'm so happy that I was able to track you down. Where in the world or where in the U.S. is Leilani? Might be the name of this show.
Oh, okay. So I am in Millinocket, Maine. I am in the most, I don't know how to grammatically say this correctly. I was saying easterly, northerly, but that's not correct. So I'm the most eastern and northern that I'm going to be on this trip right now. Well, technically on Thursday when I climb a mountain, but yeah. And I've been on the road. I just did the stats yesterday for 163 days. And I am 2,600 miles as a crow flies away from where I left in Chino, California.
That is amazing. I remember when you left. I remember certain conversations, and it actually took me a little while because I thought you were in Denver or Northern California, and all of a sudden you're down in Texas and you're in Louisiana. I mean, you're all over the place. Yeah. So I do want to talk about that. So I'm going to break this podcast into two different shows, if you will. Maybe not air them differently, but kind of our conversation in two different shows. Now, you've been here before. We spend a lot of time talking about business and business advice. So I want to chat a little bit about that, because in this post-COVID world, as people are starting to get back to work, I'm sure you're really busy because there's a lot of confusion out there about how to get people back in the office. But then I want to migrate over into your trip, and I have some, I hope, really good questions for that. I'm envious, by the way. But and there's a time in your life when you can do some of those things, and there's a time in your life when you can't. Unfortunately, I'm in a time in my life when I can't, but I was fortunate enough to have opportunities to travel quite a bit in my early days. But let's kind of move in first of all, for the audience that haven't met you on your third or four times being on the show, why don't you explain to them who you are and what your business is?
And now that I'm counting it, you are right. It's 4. This is the 4th time. So I am Leilani Quiray. I'm founder and CEO of BeTheChangeHR. We do human resources for small mid-market businesses, and then we're also a social enterprise. So we have this big philanthropic component where we teach free job readiness classes and do free job coaching to individuals who've been trafficked, homeless, and veterans in transition. We've got consultants all across the United States, including me, who keeps moving every other week, if not every week. And it's pretty funny because pre-COVID to now, about a third of my team have moved east. Right. I was getting the calls like, I know, I'm worried about telling you this, but I'm moving to, and then one by one, they kept moving east. So they used to mostly be in California, but now I've got them in Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, and now North Carolina. And we are 10 strong. We're in our 4th year of business, about to round out 5, which is super excited, which marks the end actually of my trip. But the end of this trip, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit, will be the anniversary party that I've thrown every year camping in Joshua Tree. So I got to get back to California regardless of what I want to do. We're going to celebrate this company and all the people that surround it.
Did COVID help your business expand?
Ooh, yes and no. We too have felt the effects of businesses who have been greatly impacted by this, right? We're not industry agnostic. So we had clients in hospitality and in these industries that were really affected, and then by proxy us, right? So in one way, we also, like every other business out there, had to ride the wave of what the heck is going to happen tomorrow? How am I going to support and help? And how are we all going to make it through this? And on the other part is, my team has always been fully virtual, right? I sold them on it in the beginning. Like, you rarely have to ever go to see clients in person. You can work from wherever. I don't care if you're on a yacht in Greece, like, just get the stuff done and you can work from wherever. But it drastically changed for me because I was the only one that was going to see clients. I was in my car all day, every day, it seemed like. To give it more like context of how much I drove around, I put more miles on my car driving to and from Orange County and LA, meeting potential clients and networking, than I have driving across the country.
Wow.
So that aspect changed a lot, specifically for me, to be able to view work in a different light solely for myself, right? Can I do this fully remote? Well, I had to do it fully remote. Mm-hmm. And then what does that look like for the future?
Well, let's put this in context with your business then. Do you see that changing? Do you see kind of the dynamics of driving to LA from Orange County back and forth? I mean, do you fundamentally see the way you're going to run your business in year 6 different than you've done previously?
Yes. And that is the idea that we can work fully virtual. And this is stuff that I'm preaching to our clients right now. But it is a difficult concept as a business owner and I know you all, like, we've all heard it, you've all felt it. I call it in the before. So we're in the before, we're so used to like having that face-to-face and being in clients' offices and showing that we greatly appreciate them in that way. And then switching to virtual and then wondering, okay, what next? Can we fully live in this virtual world or not? Do we have to go back to normal? And this is what we're hearing at BeTheChangeHR with other businesses of how do you do that? How do you bring people back? How do you not? How do you continue to work virtual? Is there a hybrid? And that's something I think almost all businesses, unless they were making widgets and an essential business, are dealing with right now.
Okay, that's interesting. And with your team now, I mean, you're not the face. You're the face of the business, but you're not the day-to-day. Other people can interface with your clients and things like that.
Yes.
Which is a huge change. I mean, I can speak from my own, growing my agency. When it was me, I was doing everything. And then all of a sudden I had people, and then you allow those people to start having interfaces. And that's really, for me, where the expansion comes from for businesses like ours. I mean, I'm a fractional CMO, and you know that, and I now have other marketing people that support me, but they don't interface yet. And I know when they start to interface, it'll start to change the dynamics of this business.
It's very, very true. My longest standing employees, I'm like super proud of this. So nobody's left since everyone was hired. And my longest term employees are a year and a half now. And in the very beginning, it was like, just, I don't know what analogy to use, prying clients off of me. Like me saying flat out, I will no longer be client interfacing, but here's so-and-so, she's amazing, which they all are. I try to make introductions where I tell like personal stuff about them. We tell them like their favorite food. And still to this day, I have a handful of clients who are like, no, but I want to talk to you. And so, and some of that is me, okay, they're long-term clients. Yes, I will talk to you. I'm not going to do the work. I have to hand it off to somebody else. And that's been, not a challenge. It's been a mind shift for me. I announced to the team, I don't know how many months ago, that I'm not brushing up on my HR, tactical day-to-day, the legal compliance anywhere near what I used to, not at all. And so now they are my experts. You ask me a question about COVID law and regulation in California, I'm going to be like, ask Chrissy, because we call her a COVID queen. Actually, I'm thinking of actually buying her a crown like she could wear around. But she knows everything because she had all the clients that had all the crazy questions. And so that transition has happened for me where, I've got big picture, I've got that executive HR mindset, but don't ask me what minimum wage is in California right now. I'm gonna have to Google it. Like, I don't know. That's why I have these amazing experts on the team. And that's been an interesting transition. And the other thing is, you trust individuals to be client facing. And the best way that I can, trust, and the best way that I know that they will show as Be the Change HR pros, we call them HR pros, and the whole group we call a squad. So show as HR pros and a squad in general is just for me to treat them with love, kindness, respect, trust what they do. I back them up. I will say this publicly. I will back them up before I back up a client, because they come first, and because of that, I don't have to worry. If they do make mistakes, they come out and tell me. If something happens, like we tackle it together. I support them fully, 100%. And that piece makes it so much easier for me because I know the team will do anything if asked. I don't really ask them to do crazy stuff though, but and that helps with the transition too, is really living. What I'm saying is we're really living our core values.
Well, I mean, you're creating such an incredible culture.
Yeah.
For your people. Clients come and go. I mean, that was always our philosophy at the agency. It's like, and even today, I mean, clients come and go. I mean, I had a client last fall that literally would sing my praises, and without him it didn't happen, and then all of a sudden they didn't get their funding, and the relationship ends. So clients just do come and go, but you try to foster a relationship where people can feel comfortable, do the work, to your point, be honest and direct. And in you providing that foundation is so essential in growing. Otherwise, there are people walking around on eggshells all the time and afraid to tell you that they screwed up.
I mean, I even have a list of what they like to do. I know what they like and don't like to do. That's how I pair them with clients. I know what personalities are good for them. And then on top of that, when something happens, they will come tell me 100% how they feel, which sometimes is hard, right? Like, I don't like that guy. I don't like the way he talks to me, right? I'm not going to turn around and tell them like, well, he's a client, I'm like, okay, how can we tackle this? Maybe we can hand it off to someone else. Maybe we can phase you out and phase someone else in. And then we get the times where something like bad happened. Well, he cussed at me, and then I get protective. There's such a thing there where I'm like, oh no, he did it, and we've left clients because of that. But I know, I'm doing this what's a good word for it? Like, I really mean what I say. So if something does happen, I'll back them up, because I know, everyone's intentions are good in the situation, and I want them to enjoy what they do. I mean, that's the point, right? And I'm doing the same thing in my personal life. Like, I want people to enjoy the work, enjoy what they do, feel good about it, be praised, and take some money home, right?
Yeah, so. Absolutely. It's interesting. Now, we've known each other 3 years.
Huh? Yeah.
About 3 years. I see in this conversation today, or I hear, for those of you listening on the podcast, there's a significant change in who you are as a leader. Yeah. How do you feel? Tell me how you've progressed in your mind as a leader. And I think this is important because, 3 years ago, as a fractional HR solopreneur with a vision, and you've been executing against that vision and really moving in the direction of doing what you're doing. And I want to ask you about long term in a second. But how do you feel you have progressed as a leader?
Ooh, okay, so much. Like start from day one. Like, you get so excited about doing the thing, and you're like full steam ahead. And I know all of us have done this in the beginning. You work your butt off. I'll talk about myself. I worked myself into the ground where I would be in a puddle of anxious tears at least once every 2 weeks. And I figured I can't do that, right? Like, I got to figure a way around that. And then just started building tools in that respect. When I made the decision to bring people on board, I made it about 7 or 8 months before I even started recruiting. And to a little of what you do, Angelo, it became okay, I need to work on my brand. It needs to reflect the idea of, you need to hire another you. And I'm like, no. I just need to have a brand and a culture that embodies these core values that people like about me, right? One of the top ones is fun. Like, next month for our happy hour, I'm having a drag queen come in and do drag queen bingo with the team, right? To make sure, like, okay, let's have some fun together. But our core values are fun, reliable, calming, because what clients would say about me is, I feel so much better you're here, right? I forgot the other one. Calming, fun, reliable, and the other one will come to me. But I hired against that. Like, the first three interviews were nothing but that. In fact, I didn't even look at the resume until the very end. We didn't talk about, HR qualifications until the very end. It was, you fit these core values. And as a leader, and realizing I'm stepping back into that role, but in a much different way, I'm also going to be in an environment where I'm going to have other things that businesses have to do thrown at me, that I really doubled down on my own personal development. So I will openly talk with, I have a therapist. I think everybody needs a therapist off and on in their life anyway, but I have a therapist, I have a coach, I enrolled in a year-long program, all with the idea that I wanted to set myself up to take on this next piece of life and building this business, and also not putting my shit on other people, right? Yeah. I don't want to put my baggage on them. I want to be super aware. And so I think that's what you're seeing. I'm and I don't cry basically ever due to business. I'm not as stressed out as I used to be, even though the stakes are much higher right now. I've got 9 people who I help in essence either feed their family or buy them nice shoes, whatever they decide to do with their money. I know that's part of this too, and that there can be pressure in that as well.
Well, there's a lot of pressure as you add people. I mean, and you grow. And I love what you just said, because a lot of times people grow and they don't feel responsible for the people. And I felt that pressure as we grew and we got to 23, 24 people, knowing very well that if we weren't doing our job to make sure the clients were happy, bringing in new business, that ultimately we may have to let somebody go, which means it's not just, deleting headcount and saving some dollars for the agency. We were affecting families. And so that weighed on me. It still weighs on me when I bring in people to help. And I've worked for people that could care less about individuals. And that was bothersome. As a matter of fact, that was and I won't go down a rabbit hole on this, but that was actually a deciding factor in wanting to get out of a very lucrative consulting gig, because I eventually came to the conclusion I could not deal with the CEO and the way she treated people. They were just commodities to her. And it really bothered me, and especially in this one instant. And that was the straw breaker for me. And I won't put up with that stuff, and neither will you.
Yeah, you can do both, right? You can make money and make impact. You can make money and really enrich other people's lives, whether working in your org or out. And I like that about our story. I will say a lot of times when I speak, it was never about the money, but the money just comes. Last year, we tripled our revenue over the year prior. This year we're looking to do something the same. And I've never really just focused on that. It was like, okay, how can we create a great workplace? How can we do great work? And how can we also help individuals who are in dire need and had really terrible situations happen to them, make it to that next step for them by getting healthy, gainful employment. So I like all of that. And then, money's nice too, and it comes with it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, as you build your rep and of expansion and people get to know you, I mean, it does work that way, right? It does come that way, and it takes time, and that's what you've done, and you've built a great foundation for your business. Where do you see it in 5 years?
Oh, that's a great question. And I was talking to my coach the last couple of days about like the goals for the future, and something fun we landed on, which is we're not going to do that, which I know is counterintuitive to what coaches really do. So 5 years from now I feel like a long way out. I do know at one point I want to, and this is something with my team, with anyone, I'm always super transparent. I want to exit in some way. And I'm thinking that's, how old am I right now? In about 8 years, I think I'll do that. But I want to expand and grow across the US, have more consultants that do the two things that our HR pros do right now. And that is, great HR work, small mid-market businesses, and then also teaching our classes and doing our job coaching. The larger that we get, the more nonprofits we can work with and the more individuals we can reach to help with that skill. I'm also in beginning research phases to do a social enterprise who staffs trauma victims, so a staffing agency specifically for that. And I'm really excited about that. I started talking to doctors and lawyers, so doctors for the psychological safety aspect of what that means to place someone who's been through trauma. And then the other is lawyers, because we just need you lawyers. I remember the first check I wrote was to an attorney in this business. So, when you get the new checks and they're not real checks, they're like fake checks from the bank. Yeah. And I remember writing out like a $250 check to an attorney for a contract. I'm like, here we go. But we need y'all. And we
love you, by the way. Yeah, we love all you attorneys.
So I just see it expanding and growing across the U.S. and making more impact and being able to measure and report all that. We're doing a lot of metrics behind, what our impact is on how many people we coach and what percentage of our net income is going to all of this, and really having some markers. And we're certifying B Corp. So just if I were to dream, I want to be the HR consulting firm that is a social enterprise across the U.S. that's known for the two things that we do, HR work and then helping individuals get back to work from those difficult situations.
Well, I mean, it sounds like obviously you've got a plan, you're working your plan and have a vision. And I commend you on that. I mean, it's so many times we talk to businesses. I think for probably in both our situations, you're saying you're 30 years old and you are still trying to figure it out. I mean, how did you survive these times? And a lot of folks just don't work. They don't spend the time on their business. And that's what I'm hearing from you. And I preach that all the time. So you have to invest time thinking about your business and how do you grow? How do you make those expansions? How do you accomplish the things you want to accomplish? It doesn't happen just because we say we want it to happen, right? We have to plan it and work it. And that's really commendable. The exit part is interesting, and I've been fortunate. I had an exit once, and at the end of the day, which was, and I'll say it's similar, right? We said earlier, clients come and go, but it's that foundation, it's who we are and that ability. So when we were exiting and selling the business, it was right around 9/11. And all of a sudden, clients were dropping like flies because everybody got scared, just like, frankly, they did in the beginning of COVID. Everybody got scared and stopped spending marketing dollars. And the most interesting thing that was said to us was, we don't care. We don't care about your clients. We care about you, care about your team, because your team built what we want to build. You've already proved to us you know how to do it. Therefore, we're still going to acquire your business, just like the deal we've been putting together. We don't care how many clients actually come with you. And I thought that was extremely interesting, because at the end of the day, clients come and go, but it's you and the infrastructure and the way you've set it up and that business idea. So where am I going with this? When you exit, don't expect to get out that very day because they'll probably lock you into a contract to make sure that you can continue to help guide them and build them. And that's what we did. And we had a 2-year contract. We went 8 years before they decided to absorb us and move us to another city. And we chose not to go. But up until that point, we just continued. I always say we actually started off and zeroed out again, and we built about 28 million before we, got moved and decided that, I had young kids. I didn't want to move to a different city and uproot everybody. But yeah, it's all possible with the kind of service businesses that we have.
Yes, and attorneys. I'm laughing sort of in my head because I have an attorney friend who's like, okay, if you're going to do this, you got to start planning like 5 years ahead. I'm like, what? Okay, that's like a couple years from now. But it is good to do that. So I'm starting to even think about that. What is the exit? What is the plan? And one of the things I'm entertaining, which is very much part of my values in this team, is maybe I sell it to the team. Maybe we do an ESOP.
ESOP, yeah.
Yeah. And then, and that could be the option. That would be super cool too. But we will see. Right now, we are targeting for the end of the year, the goals that we have this year. And a lot of them actually have to do with surrounding marketing, which is such a mystery to me. I don't know how any of this stuff, it's like, I make a joke with the team. You just throw stuff to the wall and see if it sticks. And then if it does, like, you do it again. Right.
Yeah, well, that's not in my marketing playbook, by the way.
Oh,
it's about having clarity. It's about understanding relevancy. You're communicating with, well, it's HR, and like mine is marketing, but at the end of the day, it varies and it's different relevancies based on the businesses. And so, my speak is, if I'm talking to tech people, is a little different if I'm talking to, consumer products people. There's still a foundation of what we offer, unlike our clients who might be in a lot of different verticals and their messages ain't going to change. But it's about consistency, and you're very consistent in your messaging and the way you do it. And it's just striking that balance of what's going to trigger them. Is it the charitable giving, if you will, and that kind of work that you do in the nonprofits, or is it about helping them, sidestep any employee issues? You're looking for what's the trigger and what's going to get them to pick up the phone. The rest of your messaging and the rest of why you should believe us and who we're about is going to be able to be delivered, but you're looking for that trigger point. What do you, what kind of calls are you getting? What right now in this kind of, as we're moving into this post-COVID world, why are businesses calling you? What's their biggest fear?
I've got a great example that just happened last week. This is a manufacturing company with an office staff. This manufacturing company hasn't stopped, right? They didn't shut down. They're still making their product. And then the office staff has been working remotely. And the CEO of this company, a $25 million company, called me, didn't want to talk to her HR pro. She's like, I want to talk to you. I said, okay, I'll talk to you. And it was, I told my staff I wanted them to come back June 28th. And my 2 people on my C-suite said, no, we're staying home. Just flat out told her no. And the others, some are complaining they don't want to come back. What do I do? And those are the questions that we're getting as it pertains to the new, and my discussion with her was, our team, which I offer this to anyone who's listening. If you'd like a copy, I'll give it to you for free. We created a survey called Taking Employee Temps back in May of last year when we thought the pandemic would be over by, July. Where, which I'm laughing, but we really thought that, right? And it's an easy 12 question survey. 6 of the questions are multiple choice. The other one are open-ended, and it asks employees anonymously how they're thinking and feeling about returning to work. And she had given that to them 4 months ago. She said, I did the survey, but it was 4 months ago. Things are changing on it seems like a weekly basis. Since then, we've added some questions about the vaccine in there because there are certain regions that can require it. There's certain requirements when it comes to, what was it? I think Santa Clara County, they have like you have to register everyone in your organization who's getting a vaccine. It's crazy. But I told, let's do that first, right? Let's ask everybody again how they're thinking and feel about returning to work, and also add those vaccine questions. We got to do that. And then take that data and figure out where are our gaps and how can we bridge those gaps with bringing people back to work. And then from there, what does that look like? And so we're doing that with her now. We're considering a hybrid model. They design things for what they make, and they've designed beautiful things. So I do understand the CEO wanting people in the same room to talk about the products and the colors and the marketing of it. And so she did ask for 3. She's now considering 2 days. These 2 days will be packed with the team kind of building things that they need to do or stuff around their marketing campaigns or whatever that is. And then the rest will be from home. But I do think to tackle that, the mindset of like what I say goes isn't the best way to go. Mm-hmm. By the way, also the job markets are opening up like crazy. Just drive down the street. I'm seeing across the country because I'm driving across the country, like these help wanted signs, and I'm hearing people needing, to recruit for roles. So that's the biggest thing. And then our suggestion to people is like, talk to your people, ask them. I think two-part anonymous survey and then one-on-one, if you can do that with your people, to talk to them, to really get to know where they're coming from. And then bring back people safely according to CDC guidelines too, and all the stuff that they come up with. Seems like, again, every week. So that's the biggest thing right now.
Okay. So one more question in this section, if you will. When you think about growing your business, I've asked you this question before. I think I've asked you this question every time you're on the show, so I'm gonna ask it again. When you think about growing your business, what keeps you up at night?
Ooh. I mean, I sleep really well, but the thing that gives me the most anxiety, I would say right now, is the things that don't come naturally to me. And right now, with everything that we do, I reach out to professionals that do the thing, right? And we needed to increase sales, and a sales, a fractional salesperson flat out told me. I told him everything was going on, and then he's like, okay, I already know what's going on, but keep going. I'm like, no, you just tell me. And he said, well, you have a marketing organization. You don't have a sales organization. That's why you aren't making sales as quickly. And I was like, and then he started explaining it. I thought, oh my God, right? You could, and I think that's what keeps me up at night. And I will say this, and again, in full vulnerability, part of the stuff that we do in that realm, some of it was vanity items. And I knew that too. Oh, this would be fun to have, but it costs money. Can we spend, our money in this area right now? Oh, but the team likes it. Oh, but, and those types of things. And I sort of let some things keep going. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, if I want to make these sales goals, I have to put my attention and the company's money elsewhere. And so right now, that's the thing that I'm like, okay, I got to focus on this, because I am not by nature a hunter. Right. I love cultivating relationships. I'm amazing at that, and because I care, but to go in for the kill, so to speak, to start getting out there and prospecting is not natural to me. I like the long game. Like, why can't I just build amazing relationships and have it come in that way? But we're being more aggressive now. I'm learning how to do that. And so that's the thing that's making me uncomfortable right now. But I like it, by nature of what I like to do for adventure. I like things that make me uncomfortable. And so I'm up for it, but it also gives me I have to force myself to do things. I have to make sure I make time. I have to focus on it. I have to ask a lot of questions so I can get out there and learn the new thing. Yeah.
Well, I think as a business leader too, I mean, we're always learning. I mean, we're inundated every day with new technology, with new strategies, things that people do. We're reading about other businesses and trying to learn from their successes or mistakes. And so it is a lot of questions. I mean, there was a point in time that, I want to say I was shy, but I certainly wasn't as outgoing as I am right now. And I'd go into a networking meeting, and man, I was the eighth graders, the guy sitting on the other side of the room watching the girls on the other side of the room. I just didn't know how to engage. And so to learn that skill and to have that opportunity to really dig in and build relationships, which I think is key, they're going to lead to better relationships and longer term sales than just trying to, hey, how are you? Let me take on your business, right? And so it is a long game. It takes time. And I'm sure you've been there, and I've certainly been there. I mean, I've gotten phone calls recently from folks that I met a year ago and have had some conversations with or maybe played golf with. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, I got this lead for you. And I just nurture them because, we're talking to folks, lawyers, right, that aren't necessarily doing what we need every day to drive our businesses, but we keep those relationships so we're top of mind. And that's what you've been doing. So I'm going to segue now.
Okay.
So you've been traveling for a year, right?
Oh, 163 days.
Okay, 163 days.
Yeah.
So we're about a third of a year.
Yeah.
So first of all, what was the motivation? You're traveling the United States, but what was the motivation? Why did you say, I'm going to start traveling the country?
So many things. But I've said this story so many times I can truncate it so well. COVID happened. I was the only person in this organization that was seeing people face to face. I started working remotely. My kid graduated high school. And for the first time in my adult life, I was able to kind of uproot. In the summer, I took a test trip. I stayed in Palm Springs for a couple months and then went to Chicago and back. And in that trip, I decided I'm going to sell all my stuff and do the same thing and start a journey. And so I did. I came back in October because company anniversary party, started slowly selling all my stuff. Prior to that, though, I had been reducing stuff for years. It just something I would, why do I need this? Why am I holding on to the thing? So when I got back, it wasn't so hard to go through all of my stuff. And by the time I had sold everything, I only had enough stuff to put in a 5x10 storage. And the only reason I got a 5x10 is because my bed was brand new and I love the mattress. And I was like, why are you going to sell something you sleep so well in? So I put that in storage and then said goodbye on Christmas Day and started driving east. I drove east and then my first long-term stay was in Dallas, Texas. But that's it in general. I'm such an adventurer. Normally you wouldn't find me at home any weekend, always going out and climbing mountains, doing all that kind of stuff. But I was, very wonderfully so, wouldn't leave for more than a week at a time. I had a kid. And so this whole opportunity presented itself and this next phase happened. Of course, I talked to him about it. He's like, yeah, I remember him saying, live your life, Mom. I was like, okay. And then I just, like I said, I headed east and I decided I was going to make a huge loop around the country, following basically the ocean. So I'm in Maine now, so you can imagine what I've gone all of the South, down to Florida, up the East Coast. And this is the furthest north and east I will go. And then I'm going to, starting next Saturday, head west for the first time. So that's kind of exciting.
Was there a plan? I mean, did you just
besides that? No.
Yeah, decide just get in the car and start driving? I mean, obviously you picked Dallas as a first destination, but Is
Yeah.
it just city to city, and you're doing
Kind of.
research prior to making the next hop?
So those of you who know Provisors is a nationwide networking network of professionals. And what I decided is I would stay longer term in some of those regions. And that is Dallas, Atlanta, New England, Chicago, and Seattle. So I stayed longer in Dallas. I stayed longer in Atlanta. I'm staying longer in the New England region. They're all over the place. I thought it would all be like New York centric. No, they're all over. And then just guest at the different meetings and meet new people with no expectation. And so that sort of also gives the framework of it. It also, I can write this off because the IRS, this is business. So
Should I edit that out?
No. My tax guy said I could. So
Yeah,
and he's a super honest guy. Yeah, amazing guy. And then in between, I would book places I hadn't heard of or places I wanted to go to, like New Orleans. I went to New Orleans. I've in this journey quickly realized I don't like cities. I don't know what it is about having to find parking that just makes me so nervous. And like all the noise and the people. And this is even during, the pandemic. And so now in between the larger cities, I'm gravitating towards middle of nowhere places. Like last week, I was in Bremen, Maine, staying in an apartment above a marine services office on a dock in an inlet overlooking a bunch of lobster boats, like a town of 800 people. And I was just happy as a clam or happy as a lobster, happy as a free lobster.
Free lobster, because depending on where you are in Maine, you're not a happy lobster because you're on somebody's dinner table.
Yeah. And that's sort of been the thing that I'm gravitating to now. As in the beginning, I was like city. And then by the time I got to Atlanta and I stayed there for a while, I was like, I don't know if I like this so much. But this is also a journey for me and like what's in this next phase, which feels so weird because if you can see me, it's just weird. I don't look as old as I am. My kid, when I look at him, like he's like 6'2", I'm like, how did that happen? And so, and then I don't know where I'm going to live or what I mean, all of that is up in the air right now, but this is such a fun journey to think about, well, what do I want to do next? And I get to see this beautiful country, so beautiful. And I use Zillow. I'm like, okay, I like this area. Like, okay, 10 acres and a house, like show me, like it'll pop up and show me. So I have some ideas on some of my favorite places, but we'll see. I don't know where I'm staying 2 weeks from now, let alone where I'm going to live at the end of this.
Well, certainly, as we live here in California and you move across the country, I mean, the housing changes dramatically. And to your point, depending on where you are, you go to the big cities, that's one thing, but there's so many great places that are not sitting in a major city and that you're experiencing. I assume you like lobster, right? You had a chance to eat some lobster up in Maine?
I did. I've had 3 lobster rolls so far, and they're all excellent, amazing. Someone told me they were cheaper. I don't know what a cheap lobster roll is supposed to be, but the cheapest one I had was $16. Is that? I don't know.
Doesn't sound too cheap to me, but that's okay.
No.
That's okay. So I'm going to take it back just to business. Is this experience shaped you at all in your business thinking?
Oh, yeah. And I'll approach this from how other people viewed it, because as strong of a constitution I have, it still stings a little when I feel like I'm judged. And so in the beginning, when I started out, some of the comments or, people say stuff, it's like a comment about you. It's like, well, I wouldn't be able to do X, Y, Z. So in the beginning, it was like, well, what about COVID? And one person actually told me, how does it feel spreading COVID all over the US? I was like, I don't have COVID, and I'm solo. Like I'm like a traveling quarantined human, or like, well, what do your clients think? Or do they know what's going on? Or how do you prospect? Do they care where you're at? And slowly that's been a little bit quieted, obviously, because we're in this different environment. So how it shaped me is I've been given more permission to build the life that I wanted in 2025. I said by 2025, I wanted to work fully remote and I wanted to work from anywhere in the world. It just so happened by beauty of this pandemic that I got the opportunity to see what that looks like now. And now I know what the ultimate barriers are. And now I know that it doesn't matter if I tell a prospective client I'm in BFE in Maine and I'm doing this thing. It doesn't change the service that we provide individuals. It doesn't change my team. They've already been virtual. It doesn't change any of that. And if we just so need to be on site, we can make that happen, right? There's things like planes. You can get places in a decent amount of time. So for me in business, it's really opened my eyes, I think, like a lot of other people, of a different type of life. And so I talked a little bit about me and my coach is Chris King, by the way.
Okay. I know Chris.
Yeah. He was on your show and I listened to that one. That was an amazing one. If y'all haven't heard it, you should listen to that one. And so part of this is really like being in the moment and enjoying all of this. I mean, how fortunate am I? I'm in Maine. All I need is my laptop, well, my ring light, that always helps, and Wi-Fi, and that's it. You know, a roof over my head. And I failed to mention the vehicle by which I've been driving and carrying all my stuff is a 2-seater Mazda Miata. So there's no back seat to stuff things in. Like I have my laptop bag, my carry-on bag with my clothes, a backpack with my toiletries, and then what takes up the most of my room is my backpacking, hiking, climbing gear, and my golf clubs in the passenger seat. So it's you don't need a lot, you know. And I think people are learning that on a larger scale, right? Do you really need that office? You know, do you really? I mean, for me, it's like, do I really? I mean, I own one pair of high heels right now. And I rarely wear them because we're always sitting on these calls. I'm just sitting in my socks. So it's just opened up a huge, wonderful, I'm very grateful for world of opportunity to live and to work and to drive this company and my passion for that and the impact that it has. I'm super grateful.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, from a minimalist standpoint, I mean, you've certainly become that. I think we've talked before. My oldest son is like that. I remember he's been traveling the world mostly. And I remember the day I picked him up to take him to the airport and his entire life fit in the trunk of my car. He had gotten rid of everything. And to this day, he bought so he's traveled the world. He's actually, for the last 6 months, been in Northern California, which now he just took a job and he's moving to Denver. And the only possession he really has besides his clothes and the stuff that fits in his backpack, he had bought an electric bike earlier on as his vehicle, which he's never had a vehicle before. And then he finally broke down and bought a car because he needed it for what he's doing. But that's like 12 years without a car. I mean, he just never felt like he needed it. So that's really cool. And I commend you on what you're doing. And it's proving we can do a lot of different things. We're not bound by the office. I mean, I had the high rise, I've had the home office, I had the high rise office. I've worked, those environments, and here I'm back. And people say, don't you, where do you go for your office? I go right here. If I need people to meet with me, I'll have them come to the house. I mean, there was a point in time when I had my agency before we moved into an office. I used to have 7 people coming to the house every day. I had structured it so in this office I can actually house 5 people. So again, you can be anywhere these days and work. To your point, I have a laptop, a camera and a light, and you're good to go. What are so we're connected on Facebook, so I do see some of your adventures.
Yes.
I saw the rock climbing one the other day where you're kind of in between 2 little rocks and so tell me about some of those adventures, but give me the one you loved the most and maybe one that scared the crap out of you.
Yeah. Okay. So I started hiking, I don't even know how many years ago. I'm like, go big or go home. I mean, I guess most people that listen to the show who are entrepreneurs, that's how we are, right?
Yep.
So I woke up and I was, I'm going to go hiking, but I wanted to hike a mountain in my backyard. And that was Mount Baldy, Mount San Antonio. It's 10,000 feet in Southern California. And then I just caught a bug. From that point on, all I wanted to do was summit mountains. Some years had passed and I stopped counting at 50 summits over 10,000 feet, climbed 14ers. And then I was like, I can only do this activity hiking. And then I backpacking, by the way, I started backpacking at one point in the summer. Like I don't have the other skills to climb mountains. So very unnaturally, when I tell climbers this, they're like, what? So very unnaturally, I skipped rock climbing and I went straight to ice climbing. Found someone on Instagram I'd followed, was like, hey, if you ever want to take a newbie out, and he's like, yeah, you need to learn how to belay, and that's how to use the rope safely. So I went to a climbing gym once or twice. We did that, and then my first climb was out in June Lake in near Mammoth.
Yep.
And they have a site called Roadside. All these routes will have fun names. This is called Roadside. And there was a group being guided next to me, and then I'm with just a mountaineer person. And I'm watching them slide, and they're barely making it up this ice. And so Dave is his name. He's explaining how to do the stuff, and I'm like, okay. So I get on the wall, and up once, I top out. So I topped out. That means you go all the way to the top, and then you come down. You don't like say, okay, I'm done, lower me. You top out. And then the next time I climbed fast, and I thought, this is like amazing. And then he moved me to a harder route, and I did that one. And there was like a bulb of ice, and I went over it, and it was just a whole amazing thing. And it was him and other guys, by the way. And normally when I do these activities, it's usually men. And I was so proud of how my body handled it. How even though I was afraid and shaking, we call it the fear shakes and climb. It's kind of an uncontrollable shake. I still pushed myself past that point. I topped out. So when they lowered me, they were like hugging me, and I was so excited, but I was also around a bunch of men. So I ran out into a snowbank. I told them I had to go to the bathroom, but I ran out into a snowbank and I started just bawling. And I was just like to myself, like, I'm so thankful for my body, and I'm so thankful for this experience. And I was just so elated that I did this thing, but I didn't want them to see me cry. So I ran away and cried about that. And that was one of my favorite moments. And I just caught the bug from then on out. And, I'm trying to go with the Mountain Ascent Association and do climbs there. And then some of the sketch moments, it's just imagine any of you who do climb or don't, a great example is, you're up on a rock, you're halfway in between, the top of the rope and the bottom. You're being suspended by a rope that is less than an inch thick. Your feet are, holding you on little itty bitty nubs of rock, if anything, and your hands are in tiny little cracks. And you're just like, what is wrong with me? Like this crazy type of activity. So I've had many moments like that where I actually get scared. And so what I'll do, if anyone ever starts climbing, what I'll do is I will tell the person I'm going to rest, and I will release myself from the rock and rest on the rope and feel like how safe I really am before I try to climb again. But it does those moments where you keep slipping and sliding, you're sliding off rock, you're smashing into, it's why we wear helmets, that it does get a little frustrating and a little bit scary. But I haven't had any moments where I'm like, we call it epicing. That's where you shouldn't have come out. But I don't know if I'll ever get to that extreme. I like my body intact, and I like my life. So I don't know how crazy I will get in these types of ventures.
So most of it has been in the climbing role. Is that kind of your hiking and climbing?
Hiking, climbing, snow climbing. There was one situation where we were climbing a chute. So that is in a bowl of a mountain, the jaggedy side, the snow will make chutes, and you can snow climb up it with ice axes and crampons. And I took someone who hadn't done that for the first time. She was ahead of me. And she's like, oh, let's go left. And I wasn't thinking because we were just physically going. We ended up on a route that we shouldn't have been on, that we needed fall protection, that if either of us took a slip, we would have slid right down the side of that mountain a good, I don't know, half mile. You learn techniques to save yourself in those situations. But that's me knowing I need to be more mindful. If someone says, I'm going to go ahead, like make sure that they're going on the right route before we end up on something that we shouldn't be on.
Okay. Yeah. Any plans for where you're at today? I mean, is there any mountains up that way?
I'm so happy you asked. Thursday, I had to clear my calendar because it was the only day I could get a pass. I am climbing Mount Katahdin, which is the highest mountain in Maine, the exit point for the Appalachian Trail, the AT. And it has a route called the Knife's Edge. I love the names they give these. Yeah. Knife's Edge, and it is somewhat of a rock climb with 1,000-foot drops, but I won't be using fall protection. I should be fine without it. Listen when I say that. And so that will be Thursday's quest, to summit that mountain and climb Knife's Edge and come back in one piece with just some probably scrapes and bruises, but nothing beyond that.
Okay. So is there a book in the works?
I'm so glad you asked. So in a time span of, I would say 48 hours, over a dozen people asked me if I was going to write a book. So I called someone who specializes in that and just had a conversation behind writing a book about this year, possibly about a longer period than that. But yeah, I am seriously considering either writing a business book based on being a nomad CEO, which is what I am this year, mm-hmm. or just the adventure in general.
Well, I think maybe there's 2 books.
Yeah, maybe there's 3. I don't know. We'll see, but I started making sure I'm recording everything, at least to, capture the emotion and everything. Cause I mean, that's the feelings are the best parts, even the hard ones. Cause I'll tell you, I've been solo most of this time in a pandemic, away from my family and friends. And there have been moments where it's not so glamorous and so wonderful. And I'm like, I miss all the people. And then trying to find ways of moving emotionally around that as well.
Well, I think I would imagine, I don't think, but I'll imagine there's certainly highs and lows as from that emotional standpoint. Like you said, there's an excitement, but a lot of times I would imagine you're sitting in, whatever Airbnb or apartment, and you're just by yourself. Mm-hmm. And, I've been there before. I understand. And so I know that in itself becomes challenging. And that's when you start getting in your head and starting to think. But you've been doing this quite a while now, so I'm sure that has minimized how much you think about all the other stuff. And to your point, you're going to turn west, and that'll be the new quest to get back and see friends and family. And that'd be very exciting. So this, I really enjoyed this conversation. It's been fun, really catching up. I mean, we've chatted. I see you in the Provisor meetings, as we talked about, but certainly not a chance to kind of explore from a business and a personal level. And I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have.
I definitely have. Thank you, Angela.
Yeah. So one last question. Mm-hmm. What inspires you to get up every day and do the things you do? Nature.
Yeah. I mean, inspires me in general. I would say nature does. It's so cleansing. So like the moments where I'm not feeling great, having a difficult week, I'm trying to work through something, I mindfully will make sure I get out and go to nature. And it inspires me back to a ground level. And I love that. And then the other part is I know my purpose in life, at least this juncture at this age right now, is to inspire others. And that is across the board, from how I'm living my life to the company that I'm building. And that keeps me going even in the times when things are tough, because running a business is not easy. It is like ice and rock climbing, right? It totally is. But it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth those moments when you're running out into a snowbank and crying because you're so grateful for all the things that you've been given and the experiences that you have. So both those things.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I mean, it's your journey and what you're doing is very inspirational. Like I said, we've known each other about 3 years now, and I've got to see that evolution of who you are as a person and your business. And I'm grateful for the friendship and grateful for you to be on the show. And so why don't you tell the audience where they can reach you and how they can connect with you, how they can learn more about you, take advantage of all the stuff you have on your site and things like that?
Yeah. Any social platform you can find, just type in Be the Change HR and you will find us. If you want to follow my journey for the rest of this, you're welcome to follow me on Instagram. And that's Leilani_Grams. And then also on LinkedIn as well. I put content that is nowhere else on LinkedIn. And I encourage you to follow me. Find my name in this podcast, though, because it's hard to spell. And then you're welcome to email me, Leilani, Leilani at BeTheChangeHR.org.
Right. Well, Leilani, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and have a great climb on Thursday. And I guess I'll be seeing you sometime in the fall again in person.
In golf. I'm going to kick your butt.
All right. Well, you know what? I've been throwing out the gauntlet every time we have a conversation. And so I'm ready to organize that event. And you've probably been practicing more than I have, but
I've been playing with alligators, so you better watch out.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much again. Leilani, thank you again for coming on the show. What a great conversation. Very inspirational. I'm inspired. I'm not going to pack it up and sell everything I own and move on and travel the country, but I'm inspired of how you have been building your business. As I mentioned, we've known each other for several years now, and it's so cool to see this evolution that you've been going through in building your business and really helping you grow as a CEO and leader of your organization and as an individual. So again, I thank you for your time. It was great for you to commit the hour to us today. And I look forward to the next conversation. Maybe when you get back from this journey in the fall, we'll have you back on the show and we can talk about how it concluded. And for those of you that are new to the show, I hope you enjoy this and I hope you become a subscriber. We publish every week and I hope you can learn, and there's a lot of great content that we have. We have over 140 different episodes, business leaders like Leilani that you can learn from and helping to shape and grow your business. And if you're not a subscriber, I encourage you to do so. And if your marketing is in a situation that you needed to maybe struggling a little bit about getting the return on investment that you're after, maybe your business needs to scale or you're in situations you want to pivot, I encourage you to take a look at my website, theponzigroup.com. You can see all the different services that we offer, from a fractional CMO to outsource marketing, and give me a call. We'll have a conversation about how we might be able to help you. But more importantly, I look forward to having you back here at the Business Growth Cafe next week. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
A chief marketing officer has both the power and the responsibility to drive long-term strategic growth that can ultimately lead to organizational prosperity. And that growth starts with a vision. What is your firm's definition of success? Growth? How will you strategically work towards expansion, for example? Equally important, what is your customer's perception of your firm? And how well do you meet a need or deliver value? When you begin to align your vision with that of your customer, you build a stronger, lasting relationship with them. You see the whole picture, realizing the lifetime value of that customer, as well as the lifetime value you provide. A CMO must look at success with a strategic mindset, looking beyond the transactional. The CMO must understand the customer journey, utilizing the competitive intelligence, embracing and leveraging your unique market insights. If your business is ready for growth and you need a CMO, but you're not quite ready for a full-time person yet, I'd welcome the opportunity to explore the benefits of using a fractional CMO. Visit theponzigroup.com to learn more.
Thank you for listening to today's discussion at the Business Growth Cafe with your host, Angelo Ponzi. Take a moment to subscribe to this podcast and visit our website at www.businessgrowthcafe.com. Read Angelo Ponzi's blogs at www.theponzigroup.com.